Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to an all-new edition of War Week Radio. Guys, this would not be an episode of War Week Radio without our very good friend, three-decade fight trainer, Mr. James Gogue. James, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, Joe. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Well, I tell you what, after an evening of entertaining fights at the Barclays Center this past Saturday, January 14th, you know, I'm not doing half bad as a boxing fan for once. You know, I mean, seriously, James, were you expecting those fights to be as entertaining and competitive as they were?
Man, the one Saturday, boy, I thought Tank Davis' fight would be the fight, his breakout fight to, to announce to America that he has arrived, okay? I thought just a superior athlete, superior talent would be enough to overcome his lack of experience in fighting, top-level competition. And the DeGale fight, boy, I didn't think it was going to be that good, to tell you the truth, Joe.
It's a great fight. Riveting
over-delivered. They over-delivered, which was great.
Absolutely. So I tell you what, Gogue, I just noticed, though, that you didn't mention anything about the event that went down in South Florida on Friday, which was televised on Spike. Is there a reason for that?
Well, Joe, to tell you the truth, I turned it on, but I fell asleep, so I didn't really get to see all the whole card. That's how excited I was about the fights. They were just putrid. Al Heyman, boy, he's back at it again. Okay, because this was on Spike, so it wasn't on Showtime. Showtime. I think Stevie Espinosa had enough of his bullshit, and so he takes his mismatches to Spike, where he's got one fight a month, and now he's ruining that network over there with his putrid matches he's making. Oh, that guy is he's such poison for boxing, man. That guy, boy, if you let him control the matches, he'll ruin that network too.
Yeah, and obviously we won't talk about the undercard in which Anthony Durrell stopped Mr. Norbert Nemasapati. Well, that's something that you can say very easily. A 21-year-old Hungarian fighter who actually quit between rounds, the 6th and the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, let's move on to the action fights, which was a Mayweather Promotions event at the Barclays Center. And in your main event of the evening, it was James Gogue defending his IBF super middleweight title against the WBC super middleweight titleist at 168, Mr. Badu Jack. And Gogue, first of all, let's talk about the judge's verdict. Now, once again, a lot of people, I've been hearing this, right? I've been hearing this a lot since that fight, and especially, from Floyd Mayweather Jr., right, who stated this on the Showtime broadcast immediately following the fight in the middle of the ring, being interviewed by Jim Gray, but especially in the post-fight press conferences, or in the post-fight press conference. Your verdict was 114-112 by Judge Glenn Feldman in favor of James DeGale, but it was overruled by Julie Letterman as well as Steve Weisfeld, who scored the bout 113-113, which in essence, Gogue, created a majority draw. And there's your verdict. Both champions hold on to their respective titles. And, it came to a lot of protest by Floyd Mayweather Jr. So how did you see the fight playing out? Did you agree with the judges at ringside?
Joe, it was an awfully close fight, but I like to judge fights on the pro scoring criteria. And usually 80% of how you judge each round individually is by favoring the guy who lands the harder punches more consistently, the more telling punches. And that's why I gave the edge to Jack in a lot of those rounds. He was landing ripping body shots, ripping them uppercuts, straight 1-2s, straight right hands down the middle. Once in a while he'll hit him with that, a sharp, punishing jabs. He walked him down and, pretty much made DeGale fight his fight because, DeGale ain't got no, he doesn't have no skill sets to fight a good pressure fighter. Okay, he doesn't have the skill sets to fight in the pocket, to fight in the trenches. He's amateurs, Joe. You know what I mean? He's very, very amateurish. Those amateur combinations. He doesn't set his feet good. To dig those body shots. Or dig those the power shots to get your opponent's attention and respect. He doesn't throw them short, compact power shots in the pocket to get your opponent's respect. And I thought Jack was, ripping them with them uppercuts. Because one thing that DeGale has a habit of is when he gets in the pocket, he'll lean forward a little. He'll let his head, get past his lead leg. He'll lean over past his lead leg, and when you do that, you're going to be, susceptible to, the uppercuts of Jack, and he was nailing them with that. That was one punch I saw him nailing DeGale with a lot, was those uppercuts and everything. And basically, Joe, it's basic fundamentals were bad in the pocket. He pretty much were amateurish. And I thought Jack was taking advantage of those deficiencies of deficiencies of DeGale in the pocket. And just the harder shots, I thought, Joe, I thought he was, I was giving him the edge in the rounds because what's his name was throwing all those fast, sharp combinations, the amateur stuff, man. But I don't score that crap. I score, the more telling blows, and that was Jack.
Well, what did you think of the game plan of W.A.W. Jack and generated by his trainer, someone that you have a lot of respect for? And it almost seems like you could obviously tell, I think, that they studied his fight tape from last April, in which Rogelio Porky Medina, the gentleman who knocked out J. Leon Love, actually gave him a lot of trouble applying that intelligent pressure. It was very effective, and it really showed his inadequacy on the inside. So, Gogue, do you think they actually watched that fight tape, and do you think that's pretty obvious that they devised a plan from that fight?
Oh, Louis DeGale is, the new trainer. They had Eddie Mustafa. I don't know what they had a falling out. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So they hired Louis DeGale. Louis DeGale, the former WBA light heavyweight champ of the world. He took over the training for Eddie Mustafa, and I thought he had a great game plan. Walking him down, putting a lot of pressure, and don't let DeGale control range and distance. Because if he did that the whole fight, it wouldn't even been close. Because DeGale's the more superior athlete, and he had him counter a lot. Every time DeGale would throw a shot, he'd come back firing with shots, and just the body shots he was landing, the short compact uppercuts, the straight right hands, the left hooks, and everything. Louis was telling him the perfect things, the perfect strategy in the corner, on how to beat DeGale and everything. So yeah, I really believe, Joe, they watched it and they felt that, hey man, we can't play to his we can't dance to his music, which is on the outside. So we got to take it to him and make our fight, and they did. And I thought they did enough to win the fight, but I'm not a judge. New York, I guess the New York judges, thought that what do you call it? They scored it a draw. One judge even had it for DeGale, so I have no idea who that judge was, but hey, it's boxing. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, well, there was a gentleman who obviously thought that it was a wrong verdict, even though his man, still maintained his distinction as the WBC super middleweight champion, Floyd Mayweather Jr. promoter. He really took exception to to the judge's verdict afterwards at the press conference. Boy, as a promoter, and Bob Arum's pretty good about this. He's pretty good at selling his product. selling his fighters, selling his events, but he doesn't take an egregious amount of the spotlight away from his men. Floyd Mayweather really needs to learn that lesson, because after the post-fight press conference, or during the post-fight press conference, it was all about him and very little about W.A.W, going back into his career, explaining to the media how he had been shortchanged throughout his entire career, and he had to earn everything the hard way. And it's like, well, wait a minute, Floyd, this isn't about you. So this is what he had to say afterwards. Hey, you know, this decision is bullshit. You know, we're not going to be like other promoters and pay judges off. We ain't going to do that. You know, we just want fair treatment. You know, treat us fair. You know, in the fight with Canelo, you know, one of these judges scored it a draw, which was ridiculous. You know, and in the Oscar De La Hoya fight, one of the judges saw him actually winning the fight, which was ridiculous. Man, this is the way boxing is, and we ain't gonna play that. We ain't gonna play that. End quote. Gogue, as a promoter, should he actually be saying things like this? Because this isn't about him. He's retired.
Yeah, but it always seems to come back to Floyd, okay? That's what happens when you're a egomaniac, okay? You want that center of attention all the time. He never wants his fighters to be bigger than him, I can guarantee you that, okay? So yeah, that didn't, you know, hey, Floyd is Floyd, you know what I mean? You got to give him credit, though. They did put on a great show, great fights.
Indeed.
Had a great crowd, surprised me. You know, Even Tank Davis, Gervonta, he must have brought a big crowd up, a big fan base from Baltimore, because they gave him, when they introduced him, they gave him a big ovation and everything, which I never seen before. You know, I always thought I thought he would never be a big time ticket seller. He probably won't, you know, but he does have a good little fan base that came over to support him over there in New York and everything. So, but yeah, Joe, you know, you got to give credit when credit's due, you know, even though, you know, I don't give Heyman a lot of credit or
look, Gogue, we're still on DeGale versus Jack, man. I know this is a Floyd Mayweather promotion, and yes, he did a great job in promoting the event. There was a nice crowd, and we'll get to Gervonta Davis, you know, winning his first world title. Leonard Ellerbe?
Yeah, he did a great job of promoting it. You know, he was a
wait a minute. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. He did a great job, man. I mean, he was really hustling, putting that event together. Leonard, one thing I noticed about Leonard, Joe, everybody talks about him like, you know, he's Floyd's bitch, but the dude's very professional. Okay, he's very, very professional, and he's very, very what do you call it, cordial and open to the media. He don't turn interviews down or nothing. So you got to respect him for that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He's always been the you know, aside from lately, right? Floyd really seemingly missing that attention from the media, and he's been in front of the camera lately. But yes, you're right. When Floyd was fighting, Leonard Ellerbe was the spokesperson for Floyd Mayweather Promotions. You're absolutely right. Always wanted to be in front of the camera, right? But wonders will never cease, Gogue. I tell you what, because I never thought I'd ever do a show with you in which you gave Leonard Ellerbe, of all people, credit. I'll give him one thing, Gogue. I'll give him this. He's a snazzy dresser.
Yeah, but he's very, you know, Joe, like I said, I've seen him around the media and this and that. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, fight the week of the fight. Fighters don't want to talk to media. Coaches don't want to talk to media. Managers. Yeah,
you're right. Last thing you want to do.
He always makes himself accessible to talk to the media. You know, to get everybody involved. So the show can be successful. So you got to give credit when it's due. And he you know, him and his staff, they did a damn good job of you know, getting that show. And hey, Joe, it was a great crowd, 10,000. You know, for that fight, that's
indeed
damn good.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would you attribute that to? You think it's maybe the first fight of the year? Eddie Hearn doing a good job, because I didn't see a whole lot of Brits there, Gogie.
Not surprising, huh?
No. Well, DeGale, and that's one of the reasons why they've had him in the U.S. is, aside from being an Olympian, a gold medalist, he's not a huge draw in Britain. And
that's what my people tell me. That's what my people tell me in England, that he's not a big draw, and I was surprised. So,
Well, this is what they stated, right? When they asked a gentleman who is covering the sport overseas or covering the fight overseas, Carl Froch, basically, he was at ringside, and this is what he stated. He doesn't agree with Floyd Mayweather that it was a robbery, but he does, like you, agree that W.A.W Jack actually won the fight. And this is what he had to say. He said, you know what? I thought the results, quote, I thought the results should have been for W.A.W Jack. I had it even going into the last round, so the knockdown, in my opinion, won it for Jack by 2 points. I'm scoring it to Jack, so I agree with Mayweather that Jack won, but it wasn't a robbery. A robbery was Floyd getting robbed plain and clear in the Olympics. Roy Jones Jr. getting robbed in the Olympic final. It wasn't a robbery, but it was unfortunate to Jack because I felt he won a very close fight. End quote. Gogie, and that speaks volumes. Look, here it is. If you're looking at the fight as an entire entity, yes, I think it's pretty obvious that W.A.W Jack won the affair. He won the fight. But if you're scoring it on a round-by-round basis, well, then it gets a little tricky. Because DeGale, you could make a case for him actually eking out a lot of the close rounds for the punch output, the flurries, the very, very good work in the early to mid rounds. In the back third of the fight, though, W.A.W Jack clearly came on, clearly had his way, and was clearly applying effective aggression, clearly landing the harder, more impactful shots, and then clearly flooring him in the 12th round, hurting him badly. And you could say he just ran out of time. But if you're scoring it on a round-by-round basis, yes, you have to give DeGale some credit for the good work early to mid in that fight, which was eventually the reason why the judges scored it a draw. So Gogie, you have a perception, right? If you're looking at the entire body of work, all 12 rounds, not individually, but as a whole, yes, I think it's pretty clear W.A.W Jack won that fight. But as it scored in a round-by-round basis, yes, you can make a case for either man winning. So no robbery. Sorry, Floyd. Wasn't a robbery. You just like to talk. So go take your picnic basket shirt and, go buy another watch or something. But so Gogie, what do you think about that? And do you think that often fans forget that the fights are scored on a round-by-round basis?
No, Joe, the average fan, the guy could be winning damn near 8, 9 rounds. Then all of a sudden he gets hurt the last round and almost gets knocked out. Then when he announces decision, they start booming, man, like, oh, he got robbed, You know what I mean, Joe? You got to score it round by round. Then you total up the point total at the end of the fight. And then you declare a winner. But you know how fans are, you know what I mean? They only remember the last round. You're only good as their last round and everything. They don't care if you, like you said, if you built up the lead in the first 6, 7 rounds. All of a sudden, the last 5 rounds, you were hanging on the win and everything. But because of your work in the early rounds, you built up enough points, to fight off your opponent's momentum. Nah, they don't do it like that. Oh, he got robbed. You got robbed. So that's what makes boxing, intriguing. The controversy that it generates.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if anyone was actually clamoring for a rematch, doesn't look like that's going to happen, Gogie. In fact, W.A.W Jack has a purse bid set for February 17th versus, well, the very young, strong Callum Smith. Wow.
Yeah.
But, you know, going into this fight, before the DeGale fight, I would have said, you know what? Callum Smith is not going to just beat W.A.W. He's going to knock him out and become the next monster of 168. But after W.A.W.'s very gallant performance, very impressive performance, and you see how he's progressed, you know, since losing and getting stopped by Derek Edwards several years ago, you can see an obvious improvement. I think that has a lot to do with his work ethic, his determination, and, well, maybe some conditioning as well. Who do you like in W.A.W. versus Callum Smith?
Boy, I don't know if Jack's gonna, you know, stay at 168. You know, after the fight, they were adamant about moving up to 175. So I just think, unless Eddie Hearn makes him an offer he can't refuse, you know, to go to England, I just can't see him, fighting, defending his title against Callum Smith, you know, so especially in England. So, you know what I mean? Especially in England, Joe. Oh, God, you know, going into that backyard is going to be a sold-out arena. W.A.W.'s coming off a fight where his stock rose, so you know it's going to, you know, he's going to create a lot of buzz over there, especially with Floyd Mayweather coming. He's going to, create a lot of buzz over there. So,
well,
but
you know,
that'd be interesting, Joe. You know, that'd be interesting if he stays at 168. You know, I don't know.
Well,
I wouldn't know.
Well, you're absolutely right, and Floyd addressed that as well in the post-fight press conference. This is what he had to say. Hey, I'm the promoter. This is my fighter. W.A.W. He's gotten too big for 168. We have plans after this fight to move up to light heavyweight. End quote. So you could be right, Gogue. You could be right, but this is a huge money fight in England. But that seems to be the problem in facing a guy like Callum Smith. So this is what happens. If W.A.W. actually vacates that WBC belt at 168 pounds, well, then the vacant title actually and the purse bid, is actually held for Callum Smith versus mandatory challenger then, or number 2 ranked challenger, Anthony the Dog DeGale, who just actually fought this past Friday in South Florida. Which is a great fight also. Who wins that fight, though, Gogue?
Oh, you got to go with Callum Smith in his backyard.
No.
English fan, 20, if they have it in that place where they sold 20,000.
That's if Eddie Hearn wins the purse bid, which is almost a guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. Anthony DeGale, you think Al's going to bet a lot of money for that non-ticket seller? You know what I mean? Yeah. You think Steven Espinosa is going to waste a date? Well, then again, if it's in England, if it's a good fight and it's over there, he knows the fan base. The fans are going to go crazy, and it's going to be electric.
You know what I'm thinking? They could have it in the co-main event, Gogue. They could have it on the undercard of Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua at Wembley.
When's that fight?
That's going to be in April.
Joe, here's the thing about that. Both fighters, Vlad and Joshua, are going to be taking most of the money. I don't think there's going to be a big enough budget where you can get Anthony DeGale to come here to fight Callum Smith in his own town. They're going to have to win the purse bid, basically, you know what I mean? And if Showtime gets involved, because I don't know, I don't know. That'd be a tough fight for Stevie to, Stevie, like I said, you only get one championship boxing per month. That would be a tough sell for him to buy that fight, even though it's in England and it's going to be a crazy electric atmosphere, boy. Whew, you know what I mean? But that would be good, on the undercard of Anthony Joshua, Joe, and Anthony Joshua and Klitschko. But
well,
could,
look, Eddie Hearn. Oh, absolutely, and Eddie Hearn has, he's taken one in the shorts just to promote. He's a real promoter. He actually uses some of these events as investments, and he loses money on some of these if he knows, well, his fighter is going to gain a lot more exposure and become a much bigger star in the process. He's a real promoter, Gogue. So I can see Eddie Hearn making that move and putting it kind of piggybacking on the back of on the coattails of Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua. Whether or not that materializes, it takes place, well, we'll find out in February. But
they already sold 80,000 tickets without Anthony Durrell and Callum Smith. Honestly, Joe, I think Eddie should just say one of those, with Sky Network TV dates for this fight, and have Anthony Durrell go over there to,
you could very well. You're absolutely right, because it's not like because Callum Smith versus Anthony Durrell, his very first major title effort, Callum Smith, right? It would be a huge event. Another one of the Smith brothers fighting for a major world title. That's a huge event in Liverpool, right? So, and you're right. It might actually take some of the luster off of that fight, putting it on the undercard of Klitschko versus Joshua. That's very, very insightful, Gogue. But I tell you what, though.
But I tell you what, Joe.
Go ahead.
If Jack decides to stay at 168, that fight will be hot over there in England because of Jack's latest performance, and and that fight was Jack's and DeGale's fight was showed on Sky, so he won a lot of fans over. He won a lot of fans over there.
Indeed.
In England, and this fight will be hot over there in England if he decides to stay at 168.
Yeah, I think Floyd Mayweather would be foolish not to capitalize on the momentum that W.A.W. Jack just earned in this very gallant effort this past Saturday night. When you think about it, Gogue, what fight at light heavyweight would rival that Floyd would be interested in taking on?
Donna Stevenson.
You really think W.A.W. Jack is going to take on Adonis Stevenson? Do you think Floyd Mayweather would be down for that?
He said he would. He said, we'll fight anybody in the
Well, I tell you what, I would love to see that fight. Adonis Stevenson, formerly trained by our good friend, the late Mr. Emmanuel Stewart, and now being trained by his nephew, the very underrated Mr. Javen Sugar Hill. To be honest with you, I think Adonis Stevenson decapitates W.A.W. Jack.
Yeah.
I think he kills him.
Yeah.
I think he damn near maims him. I don't think W.A.W. Jack can handle the kind of athletic specimen and big puncher, unless, of course, Adonis Stevenson grows old overnight, which I don't see happening, but he is old. He is 39 years of age, so we'll see what would happen. I like either fight for W.A.W. Jack in terms of being a big event and being a spectacle, but if Floyd Mayweather's smart, stay at 168. You have a better chance of beating Callum Smith than a guy like Adonis Stevenson. I think he gets his head knocked off if he takes on Adonis. Your thoughts, your final thoughts on W.A.W. Jack versus potentially Adonis Stevenson?
Oh, I feel the same way too, Joe. It's a different ball game when you're moving up in weight and everything, and you're fighting a sharp boxer, counterpuncher, a sneaky
and southpaw
counterpuncher and can hit like Adonis Stevenson and everything. But this Adonis Stevenson, what is he? He's gonna be damn near 40 years old, man. So hey, you know what I mean? Any fight he could get old. But if he can only make that weight one more time, oh man, that's a hot fight. Showtime would buy that fight.
Versus Callum Smith, absolutely. I think he should try. I think Floyd Mayweather would be a fool not to take advantage of that. So there you have it, guys. W.A.W. Jack versus James DeGale. Fight to a majority draw this past Saturday night, and your main event of the evening at the Barclays Center. To the dismay of Floyd Mayweather Jr., the majority draw.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, let's move to the co-main event, Gogue, and Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather Promotions has a new champion. Gervonta Tank Davis stops former incumbent IBF super featherweight champion, Mr. Jose Pedraza, in that was in the 7th round at the 236 mark of the 7th round, and just punished him. Brilliant performance by Gervonta Davis. And let me ask you this, Gogue. Leading up to this fight, there were a lot of yahoos, right? A lot of so-called experts who actually thought because of the resume, because of the experience of the Puerto Rican incumbent champion, that he was actually going to beat Gervonta Davis. And we talked about this before leading into this fight, and you likened it to Errol Spence versus Chris Algieri, that this was going to be another, that this sport was all about levels. Why did you say that, and what caused you to see that? Because you were very prophetic.
Oh, shit. I've known Tank, Gervonta, when he was coming up, even in the amateurs. I knew he was athletic. I knew he was explosive. I knew he was sharp with his punches, a sharp counter puncher with power. He's got a lot of God-given natural ability. And I know Pedraza. I've seen him fight. And, nothing about him, jumped up where I said, wow. He was just, a good, hard-working, ordinary champion. Nothing special. And I thought when they made this fight, I go, yep, this is a good fight for Tank. This is a great fight where he can win the title. He's fighting the perfect opponent, meaning, his superior talent will be too much for Pedraza to handle. Even though Pedraza has a lot more experience than Tank, I thought Tank or Gervonta Davis's talent was so high at another level where it would make up for his lack of experience. And I was, and I heard all, I was listening to all these podcasts, just listen to their opinions. And they're all, oh man, Tank, he has no business in with this guy. What are they doing? This Tank is so green and raw. Oh, he's so sloppy when he throws his combinations. He's so wide open. When Pedraza hits him, he's gonna get knocked out. All these guys. But these guys, I listen to them. I'm like, oh, they just, they don't. I don't know. I've been doing this, since the '80s, and I understand, different levels of talent. I got a pretty good eye on knowing what's gonna happen, and that's what I thought it would happen. Just because what's the name had, like you said, Joe, a better resume, it didn't mean nothing to me. Remember we were talking about that, Joe? I was like, man, these guys, what the hell are they seeing that I'm not? Well, like I said, once again, Gogue,
absolutely, and once again, we say this all the time on the show, Gogue. Resumes are for guys who really don't understand what they're looking at in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, it's for fans and sports writers who don't understand what they're looking at in the ring. Yeah, that's it. That's the bottom. Yeah. And it's funny. It's like you want to lean on resume. Well, resumes are contingent on opportunity, right? Up to this point, Gervonta Davis had never received the opportunity to prove his mettle in the ring at the championship level. Well, and he showed everyone that he is one of the best 135 or 130 pounders in the sport of boxing. But now, here it is. Do you see him taking on the likes of Francisco Vargas, Takashi Miura, Nicholas Walters? Do you see him fighting Vasil Lomachenko? Gogue, how does Gervonta Davis fare against those gentlemen?
Well, Joe, it'd be kind of hard to because, Floyd wants to keep him on Showtime with Steven Espinosa, you know what I mean? And some other guys are, HBO fighters, so that, that'll be kind of hard for them to make the matches. And I can't. A guy like Vargas, these guys are going to be, straight up in your face pressure fighters and everything. They're at another level than that guy Pedraza. So these guys would give him a hell of a lot more better fight than even though they got bad defense. Mira, Francisco Vargas, Orlando Salido, they got terrible defense. Mm-hmm. And they would get hurt. They would get stunned by this guy. They would get hurt by this guy. But because they're on a different level, these guys will be, they'll be able to recover and come back fighting and everything. So Tank, he'd go through a lot of heat fighting these guys. Mm-hmm. More heat than when he went through fighting Pedraza. And as far as Lomachenko, you don't want to mess with him. Lomachenko will beat that ass. Floyd knows that too, man. Floyd said afterwards, Floyd said that afterwards, I don't want to, I'm not going to unify the belt. We're just going to, we're going to stack his money, meaning, get the opponents that they know he could beat and, and just keep making money and everything. But, to get his profile bigger. But Floyd, unless the money makes sense, fight with Lomachenko or all them other guys, Floyd ain't even gonna, put his champion in there. You know what I mean? He's gonna milk it. And now that Tank has made a great, blowout performance. Everybody knows who he is. He's hot. Floyd's gonna capitalize on that, and that's, and hopefully getting him on Showtime, 2 more times this year. And if he keeps on looking like he's doing, Joe, he's going to create a bigger buzz and bigger buzz all the time because people love knockouts. And when you're knocking out a guy like he's doing, because he's 17-0 with 16 knockouts, okay? And when you're knocking out the guys like he's doing, like in the fashion he's doing it, people are going to talk about you and everything.
Yeah, indeed, Gogue. Indeed. So I'll tell you what, very briefly. Gosh, I know to your dismay, brother, we do have to touch on this, and trust me, we're just going to touch on it. On Friday at the amphitheater in Hialeah Park, South Florida, WBA super welterweight champion, 154-pounder Erislandy Lara, well, knocked out former champion Yuri Foreman with a vicious uppercut in the 4th round.
Yeah.
At the 147 mark of the 4th round, Foreman got up but was on unsteady legs. 3rd man of the ring, Mr. Samuel Burgos, actually waved it off. And that was that. At age 33, Gogue, where does Erislandy Lara go from here? Because it's not like the other perceived best at 154 pounds want any part of this guy. And, I think a lot of people would like to see, the current IBF champ take on Erislandy in a unification bout, but that's not going to happen. Both men are trained by, our very good friend, former colleague, Mr. Ronnie Shields. So what happens? Demetrius Andrade has already said, you know what? I don't really care. That guy brings nothing to the table. I know he's a champion, but too much risk for the reward. And that's pretty much how everyone views Erislandy. It's like Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade has even stated, even if I were to win, which I would, that's what he says, it would be a very uneventful fight, and it would really not do anything to increase my stock in the boxing business. Do you agree with that? And do you think that's the reason why Erislandy can't seem to buy a meaningful fight these days?
What's his name? Andre's getting ready to fight for the title, the WBA. Yep. So it wouldn't make sense to fight that Lara guy, when he's getting a title fight, especially a tricky, slick guy like Lara. You know what I mean? So, Joe, he's not TV-friendly fighter. He's safety first, moves around, slick counter puncher. Oh, he's just terrible to watch. And, I don't know, what are you going to do with this guy? TV people don't want to buy him. Showtime don't want to buy him because he don't put on good fights. HBO don't want to buy him. You know what I mean, Joe? He's at that stage of his career where, it's going to be hard for him to get a meaningful fight, One fight I like to see him step up, Al Heyman's got a couple of them 54-pounders, Erickson Lubin and that Jarrett Hurd. That'd be great, for them guys, a little bit kind of over their head, as far as experience, but them guys are highly talented fighters, okay? Mm-hmm. And just like, Gervonta Davis, even though Lara has more experience than them guys, he's getting a little old, okay? His legs have slowed down, have you noticed? And these younger lions like Jarrett Hurd, it'd be a better match for Jarrett Hurd, than Erickson Lubin. Lubin's still kind of young. I don't think he's ready for a guy like Lara, but a guy like Jarrett Hurd, big, strong, physical junior middleweight, I think he'll be a good test for Erislandy Lara.
Or should Erislandy Lara just vacate the title and move up to 160 pounds, Gogue?
Who's he going to fight? Golovkin don't want to fight him. Golovkin's to the point where he's on pay-per-view, okay? And people ain't going to buy that crap. Golovkin against Lara. You know what I mean? Just the way he fights, Joe. But maybe Jarrett Hurd, he's got one of those belts. Lara, I don't know what belt it is, the regular champion or the super champion.
He is the WBA super 154-pound champion, right? So, yeah, Demetrius Andrade is going to be fighting for the regular title.
Oh,
yeah.
This is what a disgusting joke. Well, you know what? Since he got a belt, and hey, Jared Hurd's been looking for a title shot. Well, here's your opportunity. Make them. You know what I mean? You know.
Indeed.
Yeah, Hurd's a very talented fighter. Okay, big, strong junior middleweight. Okay, so give him an opportunity. Both guys are have Al Heyman as an advisor, so Al can make the fight happen.
Yeah, right now it looks like it's going to be on a Sauerland event, correct? In Germany, somewhere in Germany, a venue to be named later. Demetrius Andrade is going to fight for the WBA regular title against Mr. Jack Colque.
Regular title. Man, that WBA is the biggest fraud out there. World champion used to mean something in boxing, okay? Being a world champ back in the days, 20, 30 years ago, Joe, 30 years ago when I got into this racket, when you were a world champion, you were considered a world champion. It meant something. Oh, that guy, that's the champ. He's a world champion. You know, it meant something. It had meaning. Now, because of all these organizations and all these bullshit, bogus belts, it means jack shit. I mean, it don't mean nothing. The organizations like the WBA, they water down. They water down these belts. You know, because of that, you know, they lost a lot of integrity of being a champion. You know what I mean, Joe?
Absolutely.
A lot of respect. People are like, oh, man, what champion are you? Oh, jeez. Interim champion, the regular champion, the emeritus champion, the super champion. And the WBA started this crap. You know, that's got to be the fraudest organization in boxing right now.
Well, I tell you what, Gogue, we're running out of time, but we'd like to give an honorable mention to third man of the ring, Mr. Arthur McCanty Jr., for taking one on the chin and finishing the fight. Good job, brother.
Yeah.
What did you think of his reaction to that left hook to the jaw?
What was my reaction? Like referees always tell you, protect yourself at all times. Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, Chingao. Yeah, I tell you what, I couldn't help but laugh at his reaction of the clean shot to the chin. But hey, credit to him for being as tough as he is. I tell you what, he gets it from his dad.
Yeah, exactly.
I tell you what, so there you have it, Gogue. Do you have any parting shots for all of our listeners? And I tell you what, because these fights were announced, Gogue, and we haven't really given them a big fight preview over the last several weeks, we're going to play catch-up, and we're going to do a Gogue big fight preview for both Cotto Kirkland as well as Golovkin versus Jacobs, just to bring everyone up to speed. We're going to take care of that a little bit later this week. But, Gogue, do you have any parting shots for all of our listening audience?
No, just thank you, everybody all over the world for tuning in, especially, like I always said, all the fans over there in Europe, especially England, pound for pound, the best fans in the world, everywhere, everywhere over there in the UK. Most enthusiastic, most passionate fans in boxing right now. Pound for pound, the best. All the fans over there in Germany, France, Italy, and all over Europe, and all the fans all over in Australia. They got a big fight over there with Pacquiao, Jeff Horn, which they're going to pack that stadium over there. Fans. We have fans in China too. Fans in China, Philippines, South America, Central America, Mexico, the great USA, and Canada.
Well, I tell you what, and that's another show entirely, Gogue, because it's funny. Almost 30% of our listening audience now comes from the Philippines. Thank you guys for actually tuning into War Week Radio and getting your boxing news from yours truly, as well as the great Mr. James Gogue. But and we'll talk about that. Does that factor, or does that tidbit factor into why Bob Arum has chosen to take Manny Pacquiao to the land down under. We'll talk about that business decision a little bit later on as well, later on in the week or possibly next. But guys, yes, thank you for tuning into War Week Radio. Guys, don't forget to like our YouTube page, subscribe, and thank you so much for listening. On behalf of 3-decade fight trainer James Gogue, I'm Joseph Herron. Have a good evening, everybody.